can't explain that. He doesn't mention it in the article. He hopes the readers won't notice.
But the gambler's fallacy doesn't require multiple trials.
Yes, but the point is that you know, the Dutch experiment in a small subset of my experiments were done with these particular sequences and no feedback, which wouldn't allow the learning effect he's talking about. His argument is invalid, A, because vast numbers of trials didn't involve these sequences, B, the ones that didn't have feedback, and C, the ones where he got this effect with feedback involved multiple trials on the same sequences, and D, the pattern of results he got, if there was learning, it wouldn't explain why it only works in some trials and not in others. So I've replied to this in the Sceptical Inquirer. I have a paper in the current issue of the British Sceptic which goes into more detail on this. So it's certainly true that these results have been disputed by that skeptic. All the data in my book, I discussed them in detail. But most people who've looked at the evidence don't regard his as knockdown evidence at all. It's based, and then when I said to him, okay, well, can I look at your data to see if people really are learning repeated sequences, he wouldn't show me the data. I've asked him 3 or 4 times. So he's not actually interested in finding the truth. He's interested in trying to score a point. This is a problem I have with skeptics all the time. Michael Shermer, who's a well-known skeptic, who edits the Skeptic magazine, chairs the Skeptic Society, writes the Skeptic column in the Scientific American, was asked for a comment on my new book in USA Today 2 weeks ago. He said, all Sheldrake's phenomena can be explained in a perfectly normal way. I emailed him and said, okay, where's the perfectly normal explanation? He said, oh, well, I can't actually give it because I haven't even seen your book. So I challenged him to an online debate. So watch this space. But I've been shocked at the way many skeptics behave. I don't think they're really skeptics, you see. I think they're dogmatists.
So in the telephone telepathy trials, are there persons who consistently get it much wrong than they should randomly, like they get it only to 15% correct?
Pardon?
In the telephone trials, some people get it more than what?
Yes, more than 50%. That's with familiar callers. It's more than 50%.
But are there also people who get it much more wrong than they should randomly, like they get it, I mean, they're correct only 10% of the time or something?
No, I haven't come across any cases where people are scoring below chance. There are some subjects they score below chance with. With some of the unfamiliar callers, they may score below chance with certain out of the individual callers because they don't mention their name as much as the others, and they score below chance. There's sometimes a guessing bias. They tend to guess the names of familiar people more than unfamiliar people. That doesn't explain the results, though, because if you always guess the 2 familiar people, you'd be 50% correct with the 2 familiar people, but you'd be 0% correct with the others, and the average would be 25%. Yeah.
I don't understand that notion of guessing an unfamiliar caller. How can you guess the name or...
Oh, you're told their name.
You don't know.
You're told their name. You know who they are. So say you name 2...
for specific individuals, you just don't
Yes.
know them.
So I'd say, for example, that my 2 unfamiliar callers happen to be called Pam and Carol. So if you were doing it, you'd name 2 familiar callers who'd be friends or family. I'd say your other 2 callers are Pam and Carol. And when you get them calling you, you'd actually speak to them on the phone. You'd say, you maybe guess somebody, and they say, oh, no, it's Pam. And so you'd actually say hello. You'd get to know them. And you'd have the same ones throughout the series of trials. Obviously, you couldn't guess them if you didn't know who they were. Yeah.
How many trials were your telephone results based on?
Well, we've done 1,000 altogether of telephone trials. We've done, in my book, I summarized the results. We've done them in various different ways with different methods, but the total number of trials is 1,000, and the overall success rate from those is 42%. The first trials we did some preliminary trials without videotaping, where the chance of people cheating was possible. They could have called up before the experiment and told people or emailed them. But interesting, when we started the much more rigorous method of filming them, the success rates went up, not down, partly because we only did the filmed experiments with people who'd done reasonably well in preliminary trials. We selected people who were a bit better at it. But we're working with pretty normal people. We just advertise through an online recruitment agency for people to take part in these experiments. We're not working with self-proclaimed psychics or mediums or anything like that. These are mostly sort of ordinary people who are taking part, volunteers or students and so on. Yes.
I'm kind of sitting back here, and these claims seem really quite extraordinary. And I guess I'm going to take the role of the skeptic here, maybe the guy, Shumway, is that his name?
Pardon? Sherman, yes.
Sherman. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. I'm almost surprised to hear that. Most people in this audience just seem to say, well, okay, the evidence is there. And I believe that you believe all the things that you're saying, but have you entertained the possibility that there is some sort of thing that you're missing that would be a simpler explanation, wouldn't be quite as extraordinary? Something like, clever Hans, of course, that they thought could talk. And people believed it, and people believed it in good faith, but it turned out not to be so.
Yes.
And it's just, I'm just kind of saying it's almost too hard to believe.
But it depends where you're coming from. You see, what counts as an extraordinary claim depends what you regard as ordinary. Now, most people regard telephone telepathy, psychic pets and stuff as ordinary. I have a lot of people say to me, why do you waste your time trying to prove things that everybody knows? So from one point of view, these are ordinary and normal. Now, from the point of view of a particular ideology or paradigm within science that says the mind is the brain or mental activity is brain activity, they seem extraordinary. That's a theory-based definition of extraordinary. A phenomenon-based definition of ordinary is that these things happen. They're ordinary. They happen all the time. They're not weird, exceptional people like Uri Geller bending spoons. These are phenomena that happen to ordinary people all the time. So I don't think, I would reverse it, and I'd say the claim of someone like Shermer to say that these things don't exist seems to me an extraordinary claim. This guy has no degree in science. He hasn't studied the evidence. He knows nothing about it. And most people claim these things are actually happening. So how can he make the claim it's all totally false on the basis of nothing but dogma? So that seems to me an extraordinary claim. And where's his extraordinary proof? He hasn't got a shred of it. So it depends where you start from, you see. It really depends what your starting point is. So it doesn't really prove anything either way. The only way is to look at the evidence and to do the experiments. And as regards ordinary experiments for these data, I can assure you that I have skeptics on my... I've been doing this kind of research for years. I've had skeptics on my case the entire time. There's hardly an issue of the Skeptical Inquirer which doesn't have an article about my work, or by me, because I publish in it too. I have in the current issue of Sherman's magazine, The Skeptic, there's an article by me about applying skepticism to regular science. It turns out most regular science never involves blind experiments or blind experimental techniques. I'm suggesting it might be worth looking at blind methods in regular science. Could there be experimental effects in ordinary science? No one knows. It's never been tested. So I think these are debates that need to be carried out on the basis of experimental evidence. But my stuff's published in peer-reviewed journals where the referees, I can assure you, are extremely critical.
And just as like what journals?
Journal of Scientific Exploration, Journal of Anthrozoos, which is an animal biology forum, Journal of Parapsychology. I can assure you the Journal of Parapsychology is one of the toughest to get things in because parapsychologists are super critical. The whole parapsychology movement contains large numbers of skeptics. I mean, they're not all believers at all. So, and people have, I published my dog's book 3 years ago, with a lot of data. The only people who've challenged it Wiseman was one who challenged it. He replicated the effects, and then he pretended he hadn't. And there's, some of these skeptics, I'm afraid, are just scientifically disreputable and not to be believed at face value. You have to be skeptical of skeptics. No doubt you have to be skeptical of me too. But it's really a matter of looking at the evidence. It can't be decided on the basis of ideology or what you decide is normal or extraordinary or what claims should be given. I mean, it really is an open scientific question, in my opinion. Yes?
I'm wondering if you can tell us more about how you define a familiar person. Have you looked at family relationships and twins and how well you know the person that you're able to communicate with?
In our experiments, we ask people to name familiar people. They choose them. It's partly based on who's available to take part in the experiments. In some of the experiments, we specifically looked at identical twins. In the staring experiments, identical twins, when they're working as starer and subject, do better than siblings or unrelated people, non-twin siblings. In the telephone telepathy experiments, we haven't actually tried to quantify degrees of familiarity. We could do that with, with questionnaires, but we haven't. I've done a natural history of this by studying who these phone call things happen most with. People's commonest experiences are with best friends, followed by spouses and partners, and then by mothers. Women generally are better at these as senders and as receivers than men. And the natural history does show that it's close. It's not blood relationship that's important, because spouses and partners come out very high, best friends come out very high. But family members do too. Some of the commonest kinds of telepathy, one of the kinds I've looked at in detail is mother-baby telepathy. I've done a detailed series of studies on many mothers claim they have a telepathic link with their babies, particularly knowing when the baby needs feeding. If they're nursing, some mothers find their milk lets down when they're away from the baby. Their nipples start leaking. They usually assume the baby needs them, and either go home or call home, and very often they're right, even if it's not a regular feeding time. We've done a quantitative study with 20 nursing mothers. I had a midwife help me with this. And we have statistical analysis which shows this is happening far more than you'd expect by chance. So there are certain people the mother-baby thing makes tremendous biological sense. If telepathy is possible, then obviously the survival of babies would be aided by being able to alert their mother at a distance. And before modern telecommunications existed, telepathy was the only way of doing it, if the mother was actually away from the baby.
Would you just take one more question, then we need to...
Okay.
The assumption that this telepathy thing is happening, assuming that, it seems to me that it's more the interaction with the mind. And I just want to confirm that you're not saying that there's something happening through email versus telephone, right? It's more just a way of confirming that there's telepathy happening.
I think what's happening is that in these phenomena, I think what's happening is that an intention to call somebody is formed. You wouldn't normally form the intention of calling someone on the other side of the world if you didn't have email or telephones. Most people would assume it was impossible. Not in tribal societies, where they do actually use telepathy quite deliberately and routinely as a means of communication. In modern Western societies, where there's a prevailing skepticism among educated people about these things, and there's no attempt to train or develop these abilities, most people wouldn't dream of trying to call someone in a distant city just by telepathy. Telephones and emails give you permission to do that. You believe you can, you can. And I think what's happening is that when you form the intention to call someone, when you're preparing to make the email, or when you're dialing the phone number or looking it up on a Rolodex or whatever, you've got permission, as it were, from the technology to have an intention to call someone in a distant place. And during that period, when you form the intention, they seem to pick it up telepathically. So I'm not saying that the telepathy, I think, exists anyway, but its emails and telephones create circumstances in which it manifests in the modern world more than it would do in non-technological societies. So paradoxically, I think these things are on the increase in the modern world because the occasions for them to work are provided by technology. Just as a byproduct. I mean, nobody consciously tries to do this telepathically. I think that's going to have to be the last question.
If you guys would like to stick around, Rupert will be here chatting and signing books for a little while, so you can chat with him one-on-one. Thanks very much for coming.
Me the data. I've asked him 3 or 4 times. So he's not actually interested in finding the truth. He's interested in trying to score a point. This is a problem I have with skeptics all the time. Michael Shermer, who's a well-known skeptic, who edits the Skeptic magazine, chairs the Skeptic Society, writes the Skeptic column in the Scientific American, didn't involve these sequences. B, the ones that didn't have feedback. And C, the ones where he got this effect with feedback involved multiple trials on the same sequences. And D, the pattern of results he got, if there was learning, it wouldn't explain why it only works in some trials and not in others. So I've replied to this in the Skeptical Inquirer. I have a paper in the current issue of the British. Was asked for a comment on my new book in USA Today 2 weeks ago. He said, all Sheldrake's phenomena can be explained in a perfectly normal way. I emailed him and said, OK, where's the perfectly normal explanation? He said, oh, well, I can't actually give it because I haven't even seen your book. So I challenged him to an online debate. So watch this space. But I've been shocked at the way many can't explain that. He doesn't mention it in the article. He hopes the readers won't notice.
But the gambler's fallacy doesn't require multiple trials.
Yes, but the point is that you know, the Dutch experiment and a small subset of my experiments were done with these particular sequences and no feedback, which wouldn't allow the learning effect he's talking about. His argument is invalid, A, because vast numbers of trials are skeptic, which goes into more detail on this. So it's certainly true that these results have been disputed by that skeptic. All the data in my book, I discussed them in detail. But most people who've looked at the evidence don't regard his as knockdown evidence at all. It's based, and then when I said to him, OK, well, can I look at your data to see if people really are learning repeated sequences, he wouldn't show